welcome to Conversations in the Den. This is my co-host Jennifer Wolfenden, as you all know, and our guest for today is Leslie Rojas. Now, Leslie is going to tell us share her story, her journey with breast cancer with us today. Go ahead, Leslie.
Oh, great. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate
Welcome.
you listening to my story.
Thanks for coming.
Um, yeah, I was diagnosed with my first bout of breast cancer when I was 34. And the diagnosis came at a huge shock, not only because my doctor didn't want to acknowledge that a woman of 34 back in the 90s was being diagnosed with cancer or even had cancer. I didn't have a history of cancer in my family. And so he looked it over as, I just needed to take some ibuprofen for the pain that I was having and just sent me on my way.
Leslie,
Um,
Leslie,
yes.
I gotta tell you, you look 34.
Oh,
So
thank you.
yeah, I I don't know what you're doing, but when the show ends, you're gonna have to tell me. So keep going, girl.
Okay. I'm 52, by the way. Oh, no, I just turned
Oh, you
53.
look fantastic.
Thank
Girl, you
you.
look great.
Okay, so what brought you to the doctor initially? Like, why
I
did you
found a
go
lump
to
in
the
my
doctor?
breast. I actually found a painful lump on the top of my breast, and it was something that you could feel if you just laid your hand just on the top. It
Okay.
wasn't anything I had to look for, and it came fairly quickly because I was practicing my self-breast examinations. So it was just something I knew wasn't right.
Yes.
And so when the doctor just brushed me off and said I was too young, I just had painful breasts, lumpy breasts, just take ibuprofen, it'll be fine. 30
You're like,
days
oh,
later,
hold on a second. How come all of a sudden I have lumpy breasts? Like, I never had lumpy
exactly,
breasts all these times.
exactly. And it was really alarming. It wasn't just a small thing. It was
Hmm.
pretty big. So after 30 days, it was getting worse. It was more painful. I called my doctor again and said, it's not going away. It's getting worse. He said, fine, I'll send you for a mammogram. And I'm not exaggerating when I'm using the language that he uses, and just brushing me off. It is
Hmm.
all. It happened so long ago, and it's still so fresh in my memory. And so he put put me in for a referral for mammogram, and I got a denial letter from my insurance that I wasn't old enough for the mammogram. So what I
I think
did
that they
was
want you
I
to wait till you're 50 now.
I would have been
Which to
dead.
me makes no sense. If you already have a sign that
Yes,
something is not right, then that should be the reason you get a mammogram,
exactly. And
not based
so
on the age.
right, and the mentality with the insurance company as well was the same thing. I was too young, I didn't meet the statistics. Why are they going to waste an exam on me? And so I took the letter that I had, that said I was denied, and I went to the office that sent it. And it's not a regular doctor's office, it was just a paper pushing office.
Hmm.
And I walked in, and some young kid who was younger than me at the time, and I was 34, he said, can I help you? And I said, yeah, I want to know who gave me this letter. I want to know who denied me my mammogram, because whoever did is going to fill my breast. And the horror on this kid's face was priceless.
He's like, please God, let me not
He's
have
like,
read that letter.
no, nobody needs to fill your breast. We're okay. And I said, well, somebody denied me and I have a lump in my breast and I need a mammogram. Where's the person who denied me? And he said, well, the
Hmm.
person's not here today. They'll be in tomorrow. And I said, I'll be back tomorrow if I don't get a call from you with my approval. And of course, the next morning he called me first thing in the morning with the approval. And then, as you know, after that, I
He
went
was
through all the
scared. He was
tests.
like, oh God, please tell me
I
everything.
scared him. And I think my takeaway from that was, what about the women who didn't fight for it
Yes,
and who
exactly.
are no longer with us, because they
Yes.
didn't fight for it, because they didn't meet a statistic? There
Now,
was just,
Leslie,
huh?
you advocated for yourself. Your video has frozen, but I can still hear you. You advocated for yourself. Um, where did you get the courage to do what you did? Because I would have done the same thing, but there's only two of us that would have done the same thing. There is
Right,
hordes and hordes of women that don't have the courage. But where did you get your courage from to say, look it, I'm right. I'm going down to that office. What?
right. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Am I back?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay.
It's just your video is frozen. That's all. Just your
Okay, great. I had two children. And if you knew me back then, I wasn't even that kind of person who would have gone in and argued, but I knew something was wrong, and I had 2 children that I needed to fight for.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And that really was my driving force through a lot of this. Was really, I had 2 children that needed their mother. And gosh, I'm going to cry, and I haven't cried about this in a long time, but
That's okay.
um,
We all cry from time to time.
and so that really was my fight. And it was one of those things where I felt like it was the start of a journey where um, what saddened me was that I had too many people or doctors who should have taken it seriously brush me off. And that
Mm.
really was disheartening to me, that this doctor and the insurance company just brushed me off, and that I really had to fight for it. Now, once I got it, I got great care, but I didn't meet the numbers. I didn't meet the statistics. Um, and
Okay, can I ask,
so
so can I ask a question? When you say your insurance company, what insurance company are you talking about? Your which
one of the big ones, one of the big names,
no, no,
it
no, but
was,
what oh, you mean like are you talking about like did you have your own like are you talking about from your benefits from work or
yes, yes, my benefits from work. I was working full
okay.
time. We had one of the big, I think there's 3
And
big
they refused
companies.
you in the mammogram, really?
Yeah, they refused the mammogram because I didn't meet the statistics. I wasn't the right age.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Leslie, what state, where do you live?
in California, this was in Southern California.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
okay. Because I had the same thing happen to me with my insurance company. I told them I needed physio, and they said, no, you're too young. So what I had to do was I had to get on the internet. I had to put off in progress research and bring that to them, print all of that off to prove to them that there's scientific proof happening. It's not the research wasn't finished yet. So I had to
Mm,
pull all of that stuff off, send that to them in order for them to go, okay. But that was 2 years later. two
mm,
years later that they finally approved it. Now, here's the thing. They were willing to spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a 3 month a 3 month membership to a gym instead of spending half of that money for a year.
Hmm.
It
yeah.
cost half the money to buy a 1 year membership for me, but they were willing to spend double that money for 3 months only. So the red tape continues, but people like you and I, we push back, we fight, we ask questions, we keep going back, we keep hounding because we advocate for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we have to have a different show where we just teach people how to advocate for
Right.
themselves, you know?
Right.
But
Well, I
please,
think
please
that a big
continue.
part of this show has been that, Jennifer, because
I'm
I
sorry?
think that a lot of our guests have been neglected by their doctors and had to go back
True.
and
Yeah.
through. So yes,
Yeah. For that.
it
Yeah.
has to be. I don't know, for some reason. I don't know why. Well, we know the reason. I mean, like let's. I mean, I'm not gonna mince words here. It comes down to the almighty dollar, unfortunately,
Yep. Absolutely. It's
and
the
that is
almighty.
very sad, but it is the truth.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's about the dollars. Yes.
yes. And
So
so you
Leslie,
have to advocate for yourself because they're advocating for themselves by
exact.
declining you,
Right.
Yes.
so they can
ab-
make more money.
Absolutely. So Leslie, continue with your story. So now you've advocated for yourself. You're going to get great care. We've lost you on video, Leslie, but
Okay.
can you hear me?
Well, I can
Yes, I
see
can hear
her.
you.
Oh,
Hmm.
can you see her? Okay, that's fine then. That's fine. It's maybe just me that lost her on video. So Leslie, you now you've advocated for yourself. What's the time frame in between with the approved care and you discovering that lump? Was it too long, or how long was it?
Well, I discovered the lump when I was 33, and I got diagnosed when I was 34. So
So it took a
there
year.
were, it was about a 4 to 5 month period where they had me wait, take ibuprofen, they denied me. So it took a while, but once the doctor called me and was not really happy about it. He didn't call me in his office. He didn't say, we need to talk to you. Let's work out a plan. He called me on the phone and just said, yeah, it's cancer. And it was
Oh
just,
well,
Wow.
he has a great bedside manner.
oh, I haven't seen him after that. I wouldn't see him after that. And in fact, my
Good.
daughter actually was looking for doctors and said, oh, I think I'm going to try this one. I said, oh, no, you're not.
Mm.
Because it was just it really gave me a bad taste when it came to,
Mhm. Good.
you know,
Yeah. Good.
physicians in
Yeah.
during that time.
Yeah. So you waited the 4 to 5 months period.
Mhm.
They've approved. Now, tell us what happens after that, because
Right.
I mean, you were diagnosed twice.
Yes, I was diagnosed twice. So I was diagnosed. I went in for a full mastectomy with reconstructive surgery. I had a great general surgeon and a great plastic surgeon who decided that they were going to be in the operating room at the same time so I could leave, wake up with another breast.
Wow.
But during that time, women weren't doing the double mastectomies. They weren't being proactive in
Okay, can I just
saying,
ask a question? So you didn't do any chemo, no radiation, none of that.
I did. I did chemo the first
Okay,
time. I had 6 rounds
okay.
of chemo. Yeah,
But
but I
then,
did the chemo after
so
the surgery.
they didn't remove the lump?
They removed the whole breast. It was a mastectomy.
No, no, no. I'm asking, like, when you did the chemo and the radiation, that did not
They didn't do that
alleviate.
first.
Oh, okay.
No. And it was
So you
because I
still
was
had to
young.
remove your breast, even
Yeah,
if you had done that.
the reason, well, and this was 18, 19 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons that they didn't want to wait was because the lump was really big. I was really young, so my hormones were still raging. And they just said, this is just growing at a rapid pace and we don't want to take the risk. So we just removed it. And I had a choice, but I knew that for them to get clean margins and remove this lump that was like the size of a huge green olive, um, they were going to basically have to remove most of the breast anyway. And as for peace of mind, I just wanted it gone. I
Okay.
just wanted it gone. And,
So you
they
did the
assured
Angelina
me.
Jolie.
Yes. And, I think hindsight, of course, is I would have probably opted for the double mastectomy, but I was 34 and I had one good one. So it was like, and I was married and I thought, well, he deserves a good one. And so it was just, there's just so many crazy things that go through your mind, when you
Well,
have these.
were you still considering having more children?
No, I was not.
Oh,
No,
okay.
yeah, my kids were already uh, sixth and eighth grade, and I was not going to start over. So,
Leslie,
mhm.
so when they did the first mastectomy and removed that one breast, did they do the surgery to give you the implants at the same time?
Yes. So the first, the mastectomy, they did what they called a tram flap. So they actually took tissue from my stomach and a part of the stomach muscle and rerouted it and created a breast with that tissue.
Oh, so you
Okay.
got a six pack and a breast.
Well, I wish I still had that, but yes, it started out that way. Um, yes, but then, you know, we went through that. I had the chemo. I didn't have to have radiation because I didn't have any lymph nodes that were dirty.
Oh, okay.
So fast forward 3 years, I go in for an annual checkup from the radiologist, even though I didn't have um, radiation, but I still had to see her every year. I had just seen my general surgeon, I had just seen my oncologist, and I went to see her, and she was the one who found the lump on the other side. And
Wow.
I was just devastated. And I just remember calling my husband at the time and just said, I'm not doing this again. I can't do it. Chemo was the worst. I had the
Mm-hmm.
harshest cocktail they can give somebody who had cancer at the time. And I just told him I wasn't doing it. And he said, yes, you are. And of course I did. And, 3 years later, I had another mastectomy and they had planned on doing the reconstruction at the time and put an implant because you can't have the same surgery twice. So I couldn't have the same kind of reconstruction. And they found dirty lymph nodes. So they didn't go through with the reconstruction at the time. And that's when I had another whole, 6 rounds of chemo and had radiation before I could do my reconstructive surgery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that one, the second one does have an implant. So I have two reconstructed breasts that look completely different, but they fill a bra.
No, tell me no. Are we gonna have to call those people from Botched?
I know, right? I believe me, I thought about it. Like, what can you do with this now? It's like, 18, 15 years later, you know that there's something out there that they can do. But,
Yeah.
that's, I teeter between being really grateful that I'm here and really
Yes.
sad that I have these scars, and now I'm dating, I'm single, and it's just something that you just carry with you at all
So
times.
sorry, your marriage ended?
Yes. Yeah, I've been separated slash divorced for 5 years now. And I think
Okay.
ever since, my second illness, he just checked out. He checked out. My daughter was the one who did a lot of the things around the house for me. And I just had the conversation with her the other day, how she still has PTSD from it because she still sees me sometimes as that sick mom that she had to
Mhm.
care for.
Yes.
And I think children do, especially if they live with you and are close to you. I don't think it has anything to do with age, but there's something that children do when they live with you and they watch you fall sick. And
Yes.
it leaves them with a residual fear that you may or may not be here.
Yes.
I remember when I had my heart attack, I remember for weeks my whole household was in this sort of mourning and I couldn't figure out what it was. Everybody was helping, everybody was loving on me, and I remember saying to a friend, about 3 months later, I said, I don't know what's going on, but there's a 10-year in my house that's just I don't know what it's called. And they said, when you go home from work, try this because it works for my family. Hug them, really hug each person separately, tightly, but don't let go. And the person that holds on the longest, that's the person that's suffering the most.
Mm.
And I thought for sure that my husband at the time, because he's very, very clingy to me, I thought for sure he would hang on the most. But in actuality, it was my oldest daughter that held on the longest. And so
Mm.
it wasn't the youngest, it wasn't my husband at the time, it was my oldest daughter who hung on. And I was like, wow. And so basically what was happening, we did some counseling and figured this out, is that they had this residual fear that I might die. And so
Mhm.
that thing that goes with them unless it's counseled or talked about, then they feel like they just kind of felt like any minute now I was going to die. So we had to address that. But yes, I know what you mean with your daughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So please go on. So tell us about. So he checked out after the second surgery.
He
Your
did. He
kids.
checked out, and my
When
daughter
you
was
say
driving at the
checked out,
time.
you mean he just stopped paying attention to you?
He didn't go to any of the doctor's appointments. I actually had to have coworkers and friends take me to every doctor appointment because I
Okay.
said, my kids are not taking me. My daughter's not going to sit there and watch me get poison put in me.
Mm.
So I had to have other people I knew take me. And
Okay.
he just always had an excuse. I can't get off work. I can't, he just checked out, and all the little things like the residual, like feeling sick from certain foods, it would just irritate him. He just got super irritated. And, I think that created, I think in me, a resentment that I didn't realize was
Absolutely.
there for him because he wasn't there. And I think for him, there was a resentment towards me that I got sick and I kind of messed things up. Um, because he liked the way things were going before, and I took the attention away from him. There were just so many things. And, um, some of that came out when the divorce started happening, but, I haven't spoken to him in 5 years. So he hasn't been a part of our lives once he walked
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
Now,
So, and,
at any time did you do counseling with your children? And how old
um,
are your children, by the way?
how old are they now?
Yes.
My daughter just turned 32 and my son just turned 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So at any time within the last since their first mastectomy,
yeah.
have you had any counseling with your children?
Well, we did all join different support groups. So they did have support group that they went to. And then as they got older and they became adult, my daughter actually started seeing a therapist pretty much right away. She needed
Hmm.
help. She said she needed help. And I center. And my son was a little less willing to talk to other people. He's gone to
Yeah,
see a
that's a man
therapist a
thing.
few
Yes.
times.
Hmm.
I'm sorry.
I said yes. That tends to be men.
Yes. And, we're Latino. So there's just this whole other added where you don't talk about things and men are strong and but I do think that my son actually talked more about it after his dad left. We became a lot closer and he, really was a little more open about
Hmm.
how it affected him. And so I'll continue to have the open door policy with them. And, when my daughter the story about my daughter and I talking about it the other day was I was coming home from visiting my sister in New York and I didn't know how I was going to get home, if it was going to be a shuttle, an Uber, whatever. And she just really stressed out about it. And I said,
Hmm.
I'm not worried about it. I know how to get home. I'm okay.
Yeah, you'll
And
figure it out. Yeah.
I'll figure it out. I'm a big girl now. And so we had a conversation the other day and she started crying and she said, I still see you sometimes as this sick, helpless person. And I
Oh,
just apologized to her and I said, I'm sorry you had to go through that. And I hope one day you see me as the warrior goddess that I am. I fought cancer twice.
Yeah.
I survived so many things in my life and I am strong. And I hope you see me as this strong woman that I am.
yeah.
And that
Yeah,
you
because you
can
want them to be strong too.
and she's independent, she's strong, she's has a great job, she's both of them are really wonderful young adults, and I'm
Yeah.
not just saying that because they're mine, but they
Hmm.
are.
Well, they
So
have to be in order to weather this storm of these storms of your life. So they must be amazing children to have done this with you.
yes, they are, and they're very caring and loving, and they adore their mom. And I can't even tell you how proud it is to be able to say that, that
That's wonderful.
um, they go out of their way to make things special for me, and I really appreciate that. And I
Wonderful.
know a lot of that too is not having their dad in their life. So I'm now mom and dad, and they are now like, you know, they try to do everything they can for me as well. So it's
What a blessing.
been
What a
great. Yes,
blessing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely.
wonderful.
Leslie, tell me
Yeah.
about dating. You've been single for 5 years. Tell me about dating and that you've been dating since you were 47. You've been single since you were 47.
Yes.
You're 52 now. The last 5 years has been how is that? Tell me about that.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a difficult ride, this dating thing. And, when I was sick and I had my surgeries, I was married, so I never really thought about it. But the
Mm.
minute I started dating, I thought, when do I tell these men that I'm a breast cancer survivor? When do I tell these men if I'm going to be um, intimate with them?
Hmm.
The bra stays on, or their scars, and I really I still to this day I struggle with it. I struggle with feeling like a whole woman. I struggle with
Did you say sorry? Did you say old or whole?
a
Okay.
complete woman
Yeah.
because of my scars. I struggle with I sell myself short, and so I find myself settling for men that might be okay with it. And that is something that has been with me this whole time. I have moments of feeling like the warrior goddess that I talk about, but it's a difficult conversation. It's a difficult thing to see in a person's
Absolutely.
eyes
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
that that you've hit it off and you're having a great time and you're on date 2 or 3 and you're like, okay, it's time to tell him, and then you don't hear from him anymore, or you see something just kind of, they say, oh, I'll be okay, and then they're not okay. So it's kind of put a wall up for me, and it makes dating pretty fearful and brings out a lot of insecurities.
Well,
um,
I think one of the things that annoys me about dating these days is I think the women, we as women have forgotten that we are the prize. I
right.
think that men think they are the prize. So we're lucky if we get one of them. And I
Yes.
think that we need to bring it back to them understanding that we are the prize. They are not the prize.
Yes.
They are fortunate if they get somebody who's nurturing and loving and caring for them.
Yes.
Leslie, I just need to say, I am sorry. I am
Oh,
I am deeply sorry that men make you feel like that. I apologize. And I think God has a man for you.
mhm.
And he's a special man. He's going to look at you and you're going to melt. And I think, one of these days, you're going to come across that man and you're going to know how amazing God is, because he's going to bring that man, and that man is not going to notice those things. He's just going to see past those things.
But you
And
don't have to look for him.
but I hear you, girl. I hear you selling yourself. I hear you when you, and I appreciate the fact that you're objective as to how you see yourself. You're very clear, you're very honest, you know what it's called, you say it as it is. Look at, I have insecurities, I sell myself short. Sorry, I couldn't hear that. Say that again for me, Leslie. Again.
Okay, can you?
There
Yeah.
you go. I can hear
Oh,
you
there
now.
you are. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I am sorry that they've made you feel like that, because that's not fair. You didn't bring this on yourself. You didn't do this to yourself. But I hear what you're saying. Like, I mean, do you find it hard to put on sexy clothes as well too? Like, does that bother you too? Like, just with the little bit of a neckline showing and stuff.
I'm getting better at it. I'm finding the bras that work, the bras that give me the cleavage, that, kind of makes me feel like that sexy girl. But,
Yay.
I did have a partner. Yeah, I did have a partner who I was really comfortable around. And when I actually told him that I was sick, that was a survivor, he said, "I'm so grateful you're here."
That's
And
wonderful.
that's the best response anybody can give you,
Yeah.
Yes.
and we had a really great relationship until other things came to play that just I wasn't willing to settle for. But one of the things, and you said this, was he forgot I was the prize.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And I told my daughter that, actually. She goes, "Well, why did you break up with him?" I said, "Because he thought he was the prize and he forgot that I was the prize."
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so, I do have my moments of feeling really, I don't let it bother me. And thank you for saying that. I thank you for acknowledging and validating where I'm at. And I agree. I think that God does have a man for me.
Yeah.
And I just need to be patient and I need to be
Yeah.
ready to receive.
Yeah.
And, that's what I'm working on, just being ready to receive, because I know he's out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Leslie, what would you, if there's a man watching this show, what would you wanted them to know? Um, if there's a man watching this show and he is going to encounter a woman that has had breast
Mm-hmm.
cancer and has a partial, full, double mastectomy, what would you say to them that you're bringing to the table that they really need to understand before they open their mouth? Please advise them. Take your time and talk as long as you want.
Yeah. I think that um, the best response I told you was, "Thank goodness you're here. Thank God that you're here. And I'm glad that he saved you." But I think what a man really needs to know is that just because a woman has scars or doesn't have the breast that she was born with doesn't make her less of a woman. And it doesn't change who she is inside, who she is as a person, who her character is. She's still a beautiful, wonderful woman.
Hmm.
And whether she has, you know, scars, no breast, whatever, that should not define who it is that you're getting to know,
Yeah.
and I
Well, I
think
think they need
that's,
to find a mature man as well.
But I-
yes,
Mature
but I-
inside.
yeah, but I
Not
also think that,
age. Just
yeah,
I'm not saying in mature in age. I'm saying somebody who has maturity to look beyond the surface, to look
exactly.
beyond the you
but
know.
Leslie, I want you to talk about what you bring. Tell me about when you go on a date. I mean, after the
Hmm.
mastectomies, when you go on a date, tell our audience what that feels like, because you have to get dressed. You have to psych yourself up for this date. You already know that rejection is possible. You have worked
Hmm.
really hard to go on that first date. So tell us about that, because I think people just need to understand that when you're coming on that first date, you've worked hard to arrive on that first date,
Mhm.
and to get to the second date, you are bringing everything you've got, to tell us
Yes.
about.
Yes. And I have to say, and I'm going to toot my own horn here, but I really think that I'm a great date. I really feel like I bring
You are.
some valuable, wonderful conversations. Even
Mhm.
if I know it's not going to be a match, I make sure that that date and that person is comfortable and we have a great time. But I think that when I'm getting ready for my date, I have to forget for just those moments that my breasts have scars. I have to forget that moment in my life so I don't let it get in the way of being Leslie, of being the fun, great conversation woman that I am. Because if I let it sit there, I'm constantly wondering, when do I tell him? When do I tell him? When do I tell him? And then he's not really getting to know me.
Good point.
And
Good point.
and so I really feel like, and I've had this just happen. I had a really great first date and we had a great time. And I can tell you, I don't remember once thinking, oh my gosh, now he's not going to like me because I have breast cancer. I've had breast cancer. I don't have I didn't think about it. And we had the best time.
Wonderful.
And there were more dates after that. And when I did tell him, um, I could tell that it wasn't something that he didn't know. He didn't know how he was going to handle it. But we're not talking anymore.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So,
So he just
um,
wasn't the right one.
he wasn't. He's a super nice guy. And I feel like we really hit it off, but
Mhm.
we're at different stages in life. I'm ready for a relationship. He is not, and, um, so I think it really is just putting it out of your mind. And that feels a little guilty because I should be so grateful that I'm a survivor. It's got me where I'm at today. It makes me the strong woman who I am. But, you know,
Okay, so
just,
I'm missing something here.
yes,
On the second, after this, when you had the second bout of cancer,
yes,
what did the, you? Oh, you did get another mastectomy on the left,
yes,
on the other breast.
yes. Now I have an
Okay,
implant.
so you have implants on both breasts.
I have an implant on one and the reconstruction where they use the tissue from my stomach to create the other breast.
Oh, okay,
So
so okay, so they're not equal.
no. And that's another thing. It's like, okay, not only did I have breast cancer and reconstructive surgery, now I have two breasts that look completely different and scarred. And so,
And
it's,
did they say that that's cosmetic now, so they're not going to fix it?
well, I haven't really looked into fixing it because between both bouts of cancer, I've had like over 17 surgeries. So it's just,
Wow.
Wow.
who would it be for, really?
Yeah.
Who would the surgeries, because even people are like, you could get nipples added. And I'm like, but who would they be for?
Yeah. 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 You've got you have
For
to do
your
it. You
self
have to do it.
confidence.
Yeah. You do it for you, and if you don't want it, then you don't do it.
Right.
If if this is not your thing, then you don't do it.
Yeah, if
So
you think it's going to raise your self esteem, raise your self confidence, then that's the reason you do it. Again, you are the prize.
yeah.
Right.
So if you want to get it done, then you do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leslie, we are running out of time, but it's so wonderful talking to you. My goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to talk to you some more, but I do want to, hear, what would be something that you would say to a woman that's just been diagnosed with breast cancer? Can I ask you to advise her? Can I ask you to just share something that would really have her hold on and go forward? You know,
Right.
not really fighting, but wanting what you have.
Right. I think first off, be your advocate, be your own advocate, listen to your gut.
Mm,
You're the one that's going to be living years after this with your
mhm.
decision,
Yeah.
and so feel comfortable with those choices.
Hmm.
Don't let anybody else dictate your recovery, your chemo, your whatever it is. Don't let anybody else dictate it. You are the keeper of your body.
Yeah.
And and it gets better, and it adds a layer of this person that you never knew you were. It added a layer to me that I didn't know I was such a fighter. I didn't know that I could do all that,
Yeah.
and
So you learned your value and your worth,
absolutely.
your strength. You know,
Yeah.
it teaches you so. All these things teach us so many things about ourselves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm so
Exactly.
glad that you're feeling strong.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'm just really glad that you're here. I am thrilled that, all these years later, you have not only fought through all of the no's, but you did it with a grace and an authenticity that I don't see in many people. So thank you for being gracious with the people that said no to you. Thank you for being forgiving of them. All of those things were not right. And thank you for being you, because you're amazing, girl, and you're
Thank you.
beautiful. You're
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you.
And
And I have to say, I prayed every day for grace and dignity.
amen. Well,
Every
you know what?
day.
It comes through, because I don't
Thank
know
you.
you, but just you telling your story, I got that from all of what you said. And thanks for joining our show. I am going to let Maria have the last word as our host.
Well, as always, I just want to tell everybody to stay safe. Um, we have some great things coming up that we're going to share with you. But we really just want to make sure that everybody make sure that you advocate for yourself. Make
Mhm.
sure that you if you don't want to wear a mask, think about the other people around that may need you to wear a mask. It can't all be about you all the time.
Mhm.
Take
Mhm.
care of yourself. Make sure you wash your hands. Make sure that you're doing all the things that they're requesting of us. We are in a pandemic. This is not something that happens on a regular basis. When was the last one? 1845 or something? What was it? 1945?
I don't remember. I
Oh,
don't
I can't
remember.
remember the
But
date.
yeah, it was a
But
while ago.
it's not something that happens often. But we are living through it, and we have to, try to follow the rules and regulations and try to stay safe. That's the
Yeah.
best thing that we can do for
Yeah.
ourselves and our family members and our loved ones.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Yes. So
listen, Leslie, thank you
take
for
care,
joining us,
everybody.
and take
Yes.
care.
Thank you for
Okay.
having me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for coming and joining and sharing your